But let's stay on that story about President Cyril Ramaphosa and the ANC presidency at the special NEC scheduled for this afternoon. The meeting is called to discuss the outcomes of the report of the independent panel regarding the theft at Ramaphosa's Phala farm. Let's cross live now to SABC News political reporter who is standing by with ANC chairperson Gwede Mantashe. A very good afternoon to you, Samkele, and over to you.
Indeed, Nzinga, the Buffaloes have essentially been unleashed in the ANC's National Executive Committee meeting this afternoon to deliberate on the political future of ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa. We do know that yesterday he had essentially made up his mind that he didn't even want the issue to come to the National Executive Committee of the ANC. He was essentially resigning until the ANC leaders, Gwede Mantashe, the national chair, long-standing ally of President Ramaphosa, the likes of Oscar Mabuyane, Muzi Chirwa, the provincial secretary of Mpumalanga, Ronald Lamula, Enoch Kotongane, Mondle Kungubele, all came to the fore to speak to the ANC president that if he were to leave, he would plunge the country into a political and economic crisis, and it would essentially also plunge the ANC into a political crisis. But we've got the national chairperson of the ANC, Gwede Mantashe, who's had a principled stance over the years, particularly speaking 2 months ago in the Free State, saying that he took a principled stance for over 10 years as Secretary General to protect the presidency of the ANC under the leadership of former President Zuma, but he was not an extension of President Zuma, saying he's taking the very same stance with President Ramaphosa to protect the office of the presidency of the ANC, because if that office collapses, it means the ANC as well collapses and also plunges the country into economic crisis. You saw the rand yesterday plummeting. Mr. Mantashe, the issue of President Ramaphosa, the Section 89 panel report, where is the president sitting when it comes to his political future?
You give us too much credit. That will stop the president. That's too much credit, undue credit. Yeah. But fine, we passed in the sun and get the credit without doing that. The reality of the matter is that, let's take the president as a person. The president would not like to be dragged into the mud. He doesn't like that. If that happens, he would choose to opt out. But this is now time not to do that, because the report itself doesn't say he has committed this. Go to the last page of that report. It says he may have committed. Okay. Now, if that panel says he may have committed, it means they are saying have a process to validate that may, because may have, then it must say to have committed. Now, nobody says the president has committed any crime or any omission. It says he may have, which opens the way for a parliamentary process.
Mr. Mantashe, why does the president essentially then want to leave if there is a loophole that he can legally contest this issue? Is it him taking the moral high ground, or is it him chickening out and running away?
It's actually a person who, you see, when you have a dignity, it's the last thing that is left with you. Okay, you protect that dignity. More than anything, I always tell people that a family is your smallest unit of society. When everything else falls apart, you fall into that family. That's the same to you as an individual. Your own dignity is the last point that you appeal to. But unfortunately, when you're in the political space, you don't have that freedom much. You must actually appreciate the fact that politics by its nature is rough and dirty. Therefore, take the plunge, get into it, and do what it should be done.
Are you essentially saying that he is no longer resigning and he is entering the mud and fighting it out?
I don't think he's resigning. He has not announced that. If he was, he would have announced that. I think he must do anything that can be done. Take the report on review, get results, or go to the process, allow on the 6th of Parliament to meet and take it whether they must go through the impeachment process or not. Then he plunges in and continue.
In your discussions with him yesterday in Cape Town, because I know you were in Cape Town.
I didn't meet him yesterday.
How were you discussing with him? particularly with the political future and the uncertainty that was there lingering around South Africans about the future of their president?
I didn't meet him yesterday. I'm just clarifying that point. Because we're given this much credit that we went to see him and all that. That didn't happen. But the reality of the matter is, yesterday, the rand collapsed at an accelerated pace. That's on the rumor that he may leave. And I think we have a responsibility, one as the ANC as a governing party, two as a country, to reassure society, to reassure the market that there is stability in this country. Law allows us to go through processes and comply with those processes, then stabilize the rand, stabilize the economy. It is not our economy, it's the economy of society.
Speaking with him, what is his frame of thinking, particularly around this report and the political future, particularly knowing that he's a person who has a high standing morality?
I have not discussed the report with him. I must confess that. I have not discussed the report with him. I've read the report. Therefore, any view I express on the report will be my view. I think it is a report. It is having a lot of loopholes. It can be challenged. If it was me, you see, I would have been rowdy about it. I would have kicked dust about it. But President Ramaphosa will not do that. Okay, he will take a route in a gentle way. And I think we must give him space to do that and not try to muddy the route.
When you look at President Ramaphosa as a person, you are saying that he wouldn't want to get into the mud and go into a battle. But politics, as you said, is a dirty and muddy game. This special NEC that has been called, even in the last NEC that was here about 2 weeks ago, there were calls for him to step down by his political detractors. What would you think he would do, particularly in the next few days?
You see the NEC of the ANC is all of us, okay? You'll find in the ANC people who have been calling for him to step down since Nasrec, 54th conference. They continue to call for him to step down. Now, those are colleagues and comrades of ours who will sound like a broken record when they say that. But we are going to assess the view of the NEC, allow the NEC to discuss and come up with a concrete resolution. And that concrete resolution must reassure society that there is stability, there is no crisis. Because if we succeed in that, we must know that we have done well.
So essentially you are here to test the strength of the support of the ANC president within the National Executive Committee of the party, which may further embolden him or weaken him in public perception, because politics is perception.
We are not testing his popularity. We are testing the report, we are testing the views of the NEC, because we have consistently said this Phala issue is investigated by various institutions. The ANC must have a patience of waiting for reports. This is the first report. Once it comes out, we said, Comrade Paul convened the NEC because we must not allow this thing to be in the rumor mill. It must be discussed openly, and we go out of here happy and unhappy, but out of a discussion. And I'm happy that that has happened.
How long will this National Executive Committee of the ANC take to deliberate this matter? Will it take the entire weekend, or is it just a one-day issue?
No, it's 1 day. It's a 1 day NEC.
Moving on to the veracity of the allegations against the president. He has previously said, and you said, should there be an adverse finding against the president,
yes,
he would do the right thing.
Yes.
What is the right thing to do in this instance?
There is no adverse finding now. That's why that report is written very carefully. May have. To get my point? When you say may, it means that needs to be tested further. It must be tested and a finding must be made.
But the report also goes to say that he abused his office by roping in the Namibian police to investigate the matter and investigate it discreetly and tried to conceal this particular issue.
Now, there's one criticism that is put against the process, is that nobody was called to make any submission, no oral submission was made. Everybody, they depend on the letters and the submission by various opposition parties and everybody. So when you read those reports and not test them, That's why you can't make a conclusive decision. You will say may have. It's because it was not tested. Then the process that they say continue with the process, they want to test the veracity of all those allegations.
If you were to resign, Mr. Mantashe, what would happen to the country and to the ANC?
Actually, that would be chaotic. Let me be open with you. Chaotic in the first place that the country will be leaderless. We'll have an acting president, we'll have this. We'll have a conference in 2 weeks' time. And to me, that is chaos. And my own view is that we need to maintain stability. Let's go to conference, elect a leader of the ANC, and see what happens beyond that point.
You are buying time in that if he were to win the ANC conference in December here, he would then tackle these issues, or he would then step aside as president. The then elected deputy president would assume acting responsibility as president. What scenario are you sketching?
There are many scenarios. He will go to conference and contest. He is nominated. Okay.
So he's still contesting?
He is nominated. So everybody nominated will assume that he's contesting. Actually, he's not contesting. He's being contested. He's an incumbent. So he's being contested. And therefore, he must go through that process. And we see what the outcome of that is. If he is getting the second term, he must continue the second term and then continue with these issues as a sitting president.
Would you not be going back to historical context of when you were defending Kandla perpetually, which in your own research as the ANC and then SG, you said it had a huge impact on the ANC's stature in society, morality, and the image of the party?
The issue with people who do analysis is that they don't understand that an organization is a living organism. Is a living creature. You play with the head of a creature, that creature will die. Okay, you don't do that. So we never protected the individual. We protected the office of the president, which was occupied by President Zuma. It is now occupied by President Ramaphosa. That office is important to the ANC. There may be issues there. You must protect that office, whether problems revolve around the president or the president revolve around problems. You must protect the office. The individuals, an individual, they will come and go, but that office must remain intact.
Mr. Mantashe, I'm going to put this to you as crudely as it is. Historically, President Ramaphosa has been accused of having a political history of throwing his choice whenever things don't go his way. He was accused of dumping the ANC when he was not favored to take over, to be the deputy president to former Nelson Mandela, ultimately led to former President Mbeki taking over. People accuse him of dumping the ANC as SG and going into private business. Is he not similarly doing the same thing he's accused of doing yesteryear?
No. I don't want to give evidence on anything that I can't raise my right hand and say, so help me God. I don't do that, because I will be speculating. When he was SG and left for business, do you know where I was? I was in the National Union of Mine Workers, very far removed from the situation. So to ask me to give evidence on that issue is just a dangerous chance that I must be taking. All I'm saying is that there's nothing wrong for anybody to be proud of protecting one's dignity. I never find a fault with that, because it is necessary to do that, because when everything falls, that is the only thing that is left with you. So throwing toys is a different matter, but appreciating the fact that my dignity is at stake, there's nothing wrong with that. That's why there's an organization that must talk to him and say, no, this time let's allow this process to unfold, take this report on review, do this and this. The organization must do so. At that time, the organization took a decision that we're releasing you. That's why President Nelson Mandela issued a statement and called the press and explained that he is being released. Now, that shows the responsibility of the organization over the individual.
So, Mr. Mantashe, in essence, you are saying that you are telling your president of the country and the president of the ANC that it's not about you, Ramaphosa, but this is about the liberation movement, it's about the governing party, the ANC, and the country. It's less about yourself.
That is true. It can't be about him because he's the president of the ANC. He is the president of the country. Therefore, whatever decision takes will have far-reaching implication for the ANC and for the country. And the economy will respond to that issue. You get my point? You know, one time there was an appointment of a minister of finance and the rand collapsed in 4 days to a point that we said, no, let's reverse this decision. It happens because it's not about the individuals, it's about society. And then the ANC.
But are you then not elevating an individual above the organization itself and making him more important than the African National Congress?
When you elect a president, you are elevating that individual already at that point. It's not elevated now. He was elevated when he was elected president of the organization to be the leader of the organization. Now, a leader of the organization is not elevated, he's the leader of the organization. That's what he is. And therefore, you are not elevating him above anything. You are just saying, reminding that, listen, you are leading an organization. It can't be about yourself.
Are you, in essence, saying that he may have, in this instance, let his feelings get above him than the interests of the ANC and of the country, particularly looking at the veracity of the report that has been tabled?
I don't know the feelings. I can't have a sense of his feelings. But all I'm saying is that it is important to create space for this report to be processed properly and allow Parliament to do what it should do, and therefore take a decision when there is a concrete decision taken.
Mr. Mantashe, I put it to you that you've got a deputy president in the form of David Mabuza. Do you not have confidence in him being able to take over the mantle of leadership should President Ramaphosa leave? Because you're saying if Ramaphosa leaves, it would create a crisis for the ANC and of the country. Is this a vote of no confidence against your DP?
No, the president is not dead. Okay, he's alive, and therefore we can't cast aspersions on that issue. All we're saying is that there's a living president, take the responsibility, and lead the ANC, lead the country. The deputy president deputizes the president in the ANC and in the country. Continue deputizing. When the president is not there, you act all the time. Continue doing so.
Let's broaden the debate a bit and move it away just from the persona of Cyril Ramaphosa and move it to the top echelons of the governing party, the top six. What were the deliberations in the past, or top four, in the past 3 days? Well, Paul Mashatile is 3 positions in one. How do you then characterize the past 48 hours in the deliberations in the top six and with the uncertainty that has been created over the future of the president? Have you been meeting? The
decision we took in a formal meeting of officials that must convene an NSA. We must not allow this debate to be in the rumor mill. It must be opened up, we talk about it, so that we disarm any malice of being malicious.
Alliance partners, what have some of the engagements been? We do know that the Veterans League met yesterday. They were deliberating on the matter. There were proposals for the president to step down as head of state and leave as president of the ANC. Have you engaged your alliance partners?
The veterans are represented in the NEC. They will be here and present the position of the Veterans League. A discussion with the alliance, we're moving at neck break speed. We want to close the matter and allow it to be informed by a decision of a structure.
Knowing the ANC historically, Mr. Mantashe, whenever you've been debating hot and highly charged and possibly divisive matters, such as this dating back from Nkandla, the report by Advocate Thuli Madonsela, it mostly leaves you in a very fragmented position, and those divisions are perpetuated as you move towards a conference. Can this NEC further fracture and divide you?
Now, we're going to have the NEC will complete it. One of the things I always boast about, Samkela, as a chairperson of the party, is that despite the sharp difference on many issues, this NEC has never left a room fragmented. People left and others whisper to the media, but here we discuss and conclude matters. And I don't think this will be an exception.
But your NEC member, Nomvula Mokonyane, says this is the weakest ANC NEC in history.
It is a confession on her part that her involvement in the NEC may be a mistake. I can't talk to confessions of individuals.
Mr. Mantashe, former President Mbeki spoke and said and questioned whether the ANC is ready to deal with the aftermath of this report. You came out and said predecessors should not attack the incumbent.
Yes.
Were you ever ready for the aftermath of this report?
There are no aftermaths now. The initial report has come. It directs Parliament to take the process further. That's not an aftermath. It's what is expected of it. And then let's wait until that process is completed. One of the mistakes we can commit as the ANC is this thing of wanting to preempt processes, not be patient enough to wait for the processes and take informed decision. That is the most dangerous thing. The best thing is to wait and take informed decisions.
But are you not looking at your own selfish preservation, Mr. Mantashe, when it comes to the issue of the president? Because if you were to leave, ultimately you may be removed, or many of the cabinet ministers may be removed. Your own perspective or faction in the ANC may be disorientated or plunged into a crisis going into a conference as you no longer have a candidate.
You know, Samgel, many people exaggerate this thing of cabinet. This is my first time in cabinet, okay? And I don't know whether it is a life and death issue. I've been working as a party head all my life, okay? I'm in cabinet now for the first time. Now, this thing of things that I'm singing for my supper is actually malicious, because it means because we're in cabinet, we must be Egyptian mummies, keep quiet and never react to anything. That is not correct. We must be analytical, engaged, and be part of the decision. If we have a perspective, it may happen that the we believe in, if that perspective is a winning perspective, that will be the perspective that is predominant in the ANC. If it is losing, it will not be predominant in the ANC.
But you've got a scenario where you've got a candidate who's contesting the incumbent, who's dogged in allegations of corruption, money laundering, and channeling of public funds into private accounts of people on the issue of digital vibes, Dr. Zwelini Mkhize. Then you've got Phala on the other hand, with a person who was found with $580,000 amounting to about 10 million rands in his farm, which was not declared. Are these two people the right individuals to contest for the presidency of the ANC when you're saying you're renewing?
Now, what I cannot do is to judge people on the basis of allegations. I'm a very strong adherent to processes, because processes have no comebacks. If you undermine processes, you take rash decisions, you are likely to have comebacks. So I don't want to judge Comrade Zweli, I don't want to judge the president. They have these allegations against them, they're dealing with them, allow those processes to finalize those issues.
How do you go into an election campaign with two people who've got serious allegations over their heads in an organization that is dipped under 50% in the 2021 local government elections?
We go there because we're a party, and that party is not the two people. It's many people in the ANC. Actually, last Sunday I was in Ward 20 in Kumbu, and I went there. When I came back, I said, we look at not as organized as we should be here. And that the ANC won that ward, because it's not about me, it's about activists in that ward.
Do you still have any moral leaders left in the ANC who are not dogged with any allegations of corruption?
I don't know morality. It's a very serious concept. Now, I think because morality gets classified, religious morality, political morality, and all that and all that. And my argument is that the ANC is big and is bigger than any individual. And there is ANC with good political morality. Anybody who deviate is actually deviating from the morality of the organization.
Are you not afraid that President Ramaphosa may be impeached should he decide to stay on as president and you don't remove him as the NEC?
If he's impeached, that's a decision and an outcome of a process. Okay. Then when there's an outcome of a process, then the ANC must take the outcome of a process serious. The worst thing is to impeach Ramaphosa ourselves before he's impeached by Parliament, and he doesn't get impeached by Parliament. That's the worst.
So essentially you are advocating for the NEC to come out stronger in support of President Ramaphosa rather than this special NEC saying, no, Chief, you've brought the NEC into
the NEC must support the process and nudge President Ramaphosa to subject himself to the process.
Which essentially you are saying he must stay on and see the entire process on.
Yes. Otherwise, we'll have an outcome that is devoid of facts.
But is that not further denting your image going into an all-important election in 2024?
The worst thing is when you go to 2024 with a disorganized ANC that is actually all over the show, it will dent us. Let's go through the processes. That is how you build an organization and rebuild the capacity of the organization is when they are subjected to processes and they stick to those processes.
The president said he was receiving a number of counsel yesterday on this particular matter for the past 48 hours. Who are some of the people the president is receiving counsel from on this particular issue and whom are advising him?
I'm sure if you talk to him, he will tell you.
He never takes interviews though.
No, but if you talk to him, he will tell you because I'm not staying in his place. I don't know who goes to him. So it will be presumptuous of me to think that I know who talks to the president. It is good that he listens to people when they counsel him on this matter.
What is some of your advice to ANC members whom are sitting at home and South Africans whom are sitting at home not knowing what the future holds for their president and the president of the party? What are some of the key elements and key issues you can say to them?
Is that the president must be subjected to a proper process. Outcome of those processes must determine the future of the president. At that point, the ANC will take a decision.
Mr. Mantashe, moving on to your campaign for national chairperson. How is that campaign going? You are being challenged by Chupuma Tabata, your former ally in Limpopo. You are being challenged by a young David Masondo. Are you going to be sitting in that chair again as chair?
Can I tell you something? When we go to a conference with the ANC on 16th to 20th December, we know that exactly 5 years on 16th to 20th there will be another conference. And the business of that conference will be to elect new leadership. Now, if we go to conference and have guarantees for individuals, that would be the worst thing that will happen. Everybody gets contested. You go through that mill. If you are not elected, you are not elected. It has happened. Many people get voted out. New people get elected. It happens every 5 years.
Is it not time for you to pass on the mantle of leadership? You've been SG for a period of 10 years. You've now been national chairperson for a period of 5 years. It's 15 years within the African National Congress.
Can I tell you, Maseko? I'm a young generation that actually was in the generational mix with the 1944 youth leaguers who led the ANC for 5 decades. And I don't think we are having suspicion and cast suspicion against them. They laid well. Oliver Tambo, Nelson Mandela are the generation of the youth leaguers of 1944. They led us for 5 decades. And 15 years is 1.5 decades. Now, the point I'm making is that what is important is whether in the process, when you stay in the ANC, you learn, you gain experience, you gain knowledge, you supplement that with studying so that your vistas are open. If you do that, you can still offer valuable service to the ANC.
I put it to you that your contender says that for the past 3 decades, the leadership that has been there leading the country has pretty much failed South Africans.
Who is this contender?
David Masondo. He says you failed.
David Masondo was an MEC for finance in Limpopo some decade ago. more than a decade ago. So he's not a newcomer. So I can't take a situation where people who have been part of the generation mix all of a sudden become newcomers. That's malicious allegation of people who have been involved. He is in the NSA now, he is in the party, he's an activist. I love him for that. Now, to create a picture of a newcomer who come from heaven is malicious. He must just come and make a contribution.
Last question, Mr. Mantashe. Come the end of this NEC, come Monday morning, will Cyril Ramaphosa Ramaphosa be the president of the country?
I'm going to the NSA now. And from NSA, ask me that question, I'll give you an answer.
Are you confident you are going to come out with him still as the president?
Wait for me to go to the NSA. At the end of the NSA, I will give you the answer.
You look better than yesterday. You look more relaxed. Have you finally convinced him?
What was happening yesterday?
You were stressed.
I didn't see you yesterday. Where were you?
I know you were stressed. I saw your pictures getting onto a flight from Cape Town.
Your informants are giving you distorted information sometimes.
So you've convinced Buffalo to stay?
Your informants must not feed you with false information.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mantashe. That is the national chairperson of the ANC, Gwede Mantashe, essentially saying that this is not about President Cyril Ramaphosa. It's not about his personal feelings, but this is about the country and the ANC, that if he were to leave now, it would plunge the ANC into a crisis, it would plunge the country into a crisis, it would send South Africa's economy into the doldrums, similar to that weekend when former President Jacob Zuma made Des van Rooyen the Minister of Finance, a decision the NEC had to reverse, saying that ultimately the final arbiter of the political future of President Ramaphosa does not lie with him, but lies with the organization that deployed him to the union buildings.